Hello, geeks and ghouls. Today we talk about, surprise, surprise, book 6 of the Cradle series by Will Wight, Underlord. And I know some of you guys or girls are curious. You haven't read the series yet, or maybe you've read book 1 or 2, and you're like, let's watch a review video of book 6. So I'll know if it's good or not, if I should continue the series or not. Let me answer to you. Is book 6 of Cradle good? Is it getting better? It's getting not so good? Well, I've just started reading book 9 because I couldn't stop reading book 7 or 8 after finishing book 6 to film this video. So yes, this series is so good and it's getting better in book 7 and 8. The book 6 is called Underlord, so I believe it's no spoiler if I say that. As with book 5, I was not quite blown away, but for different reasons. And in retrospect, after having read up to book 8 and how good it was, I feel that both books are short and they seem like they rush to get to book 7 and book 8, which seem to be the real story in the series, up to that point at least, because that's where we get the meat of things, and the books that came before were just a preparation in order to get there. And if it was some manga from which Cradle was obviously influenced, I would welcome a few filler issues, a few filler arcs where the characters would be out there, have some adventures that had no real impact on the story, etc., in order to feel that this rise of the heroes to power from Zero to Underlord is, it's more balanced. But that's just me, because in book 6 we get a lot of character development, and we'll get to why this happens in the spoiler section. We also learn a few more stuff about the Abidan and the war in the Way and the various iterations being destroyed, as well as by the end of the book we get a short update on what is going on in the Sacred Valley. No spoilers here, but the Sacred Valley is important to the story. Even though we left Sacred Valley very early on, there was some setup and then Lyndon just left. Let's not forget that his goal is he wants to be stronger to save his home from a catastrophe. And it's good to return there because, we're getting back to Sacred Valley soon. After the events of Ghostwater, the Black Flame Empire is invited to contribute a team of 3 Underlords under 35 to the big tournament that the Monarchs still hold, the Uncrowned tournament. And Akira Charity, who is Assad's and not quite an aunt, actually a niece, but also an aunt to Mercy, because Mercy is the daughter of a monarch, so she has a lot of older brothers and sisters, and one of her older brothers is the father to Charity. However, Charity is very old, so she cannot say, oh, this is my niece, this is my aunt, because she's older. She appears to the Black Flame King and tells them that they need to train to get some Underlords under 35 for the tournament. Either them or their neighbor kingdom, the Saisen Kingdom, which is a rival. And of course, providing Underlords a mark of prestige. If they cannot provide any, they're in deep trouble. But there are not many Underlords in the Black Flame Empire, so she is willing to offer a special training zone so they can advance there, because the aura is richer there. There are many natural treasures, so they're able to get the resources to advance faster. Because if you're able to afford special ingredients in the world of Cradle, then you're able to advance faster, as we've saw in previous books. That explains a lot of why Lyndon is able to advance very fast, because he's getting ingredients and a special treatment of sorts. There is also a slight problem. Lyndon let her nephew, who was planning to use as a champion in that tournament, die in the end of Ghostwater, and that's not good for Lyndon. It's complications again. And also there's the fact that the Saisen Kingdom is not willing to play fair. So we've got a lot of conflict in this book, and that's fine. And I think it's time I get to the spoilers, because that's the premise of the book. That's 25% or so. What really sets this book apart is the focus on characters. because in order for a secret artist to advance from true gold into Underlord, they have to find their true purpose, the true identity, who they really are. And this leads our heroes to confront who they really are, what is their purpose in life, what baggage they carry, and they have to get rid of it. So it's really interesting. We've got Mercy, who is an enigma in the previous books, and by the end of it we get a lot of answers about what's going on with her and why she joined the Black Flame Empire and why her powers don't work quite well. And Yeren has to deal with her blood shadow. She feels threatened by it, but then Aidan tells her that she can grow a clone out of it, and she does, and this has some very interesting complications because now there's a clone Yeren that she may or may not control. Aidan is as enigmatic as ever. He seems very suave, very competent, but then again we start to see that Aidan is having some difficulty as we advance to the books. So yeah, that's kind of interesting to see that Aidan is not the master of the game and super cool, etc. There is definitely more to him. Yes, he's still a power to be reckoned with, but he's not omnipotent. We get to a level where Aidan is overshadowed by stronger people. Now, Lyndon. I do not like Lyndon that much, okay? He's the geeky dude who has to become super strong, and he uses a lot of exploits and a lot of coincidence to do so. And to me, he starts to feel a lot like a player in a sandbox RPG full of some very interesting and colorful NPC party members. And I don't believe that he's less interesting than the other characters in the book. I think they're all equally developed, but we spend so much time in his head that we start to see that yes, he's one note character like a lot of the other characters in this book. Yes, the other characters have this illusion of depth. They have some quirks, some characteristics, and some purpose, some past. So yes, they're well developed for secondary characters, but Lyndon is about as interesting as them. So spending a lot of time in his head does not feel good. I think that Dross, the spirit, the mind spirit that he got in Ghostwater, it feels a lot like a cheat. He feels overpowered. And what is really interesting about Lyndon is that he begins to be respected because he grew up in power. He can show that he's strong, he can take care of things on his own, and the way he uses his new power is making him likable because he's not an asshole about it. He's still the Lyndon we knew, only he can affect the world around him and not only be tossed around and beg for his life every time things get hard. So that's very interesting, and it's nice to see him grow a spine and have fights that he has a chance of winning, even though that's also feels a lot of it comes from Dross. So yeah, it sort of diminishes what Lyndon is able to do, but then again, it's the only way to explain his lack of experience, how he can stand up to more powerful opponents who have a lot more experience than him. And speaking of opponents, I really loved the antagonists in this one. Kiro and Meira, they look really cool. And that's beginning of seeing some very visually interesting characters appearing in this book as antagonists, and they have some interesting powers, and I think that their relationship is really interesting. I feel they're a bit underused in this book, to be honest, but I believe that's mostly because of how short this book feels. It feels like the ending comes a bit abrupt, and there is still a lot of downtime, which is not that interesting. I feel that maybe we needed a couple, 2 or 3 books between Skysworn, Ghostwater, and Underlord to see the party, have adventures, and grow. It would fix a lot of the pacing of this book. And yeah, the big ending is feeling rushed. It's epic, alright, it's a great big climactic ending, but there is this extra ticking clock element that is introduced halfway through that feels too forced. It's too much. We already have a ticking clock, our heroes have to be Underlords to go into the tournament, and we didn't need that element too. As well as, Lyndon is once more overpowering a superior opponent because of kiting and and having equipment of sorts. So yeah, that feels not fun. But I think that the story ends in a good climax. It's emotionally fulfilling. I enjoyed this book, and there are a lot of complications created by the end of book 6 that I jumped straight into book 7 and then book 8. Because in book 7, things have gotten really good. But this is another video. Thank you for watching. Don't forget, like, subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Have fun.